So today I would like to talk about theories of personality. I'm going to talk about Karen Horney's psychoanalytical social theory. Just so you know that she was a neo-Freudian and she was born in the year 1885 in Germany. She was one of the first women in the country that time when she was given admission to medical school. She was acquainted with Freud's work. Later on, she became a psychoanalyst and a psychiatrist. And eventually, she, in her mid 40s, she moved to US. Initially, she was living in Chicago. Then she shifted to New York, and she abandoned psychoanalysis, Freud's orthodox viewpoint regarding psychoanalysis, and her theory later on um, evolved. She evolved her theory, psychoanalytic theory, to a more socially oriented theory. Okay, and like Freud's view was very orthodox. Freud's view was very skewed towards feminine psychology because most of it is about penis envy and so on that we'll be discussing later on. She viewed feminine development and female psychology in a much more positive way compared to Freud. And at the age of 67, in the year 1952, she died. Now, speaking of psychoanalytic theory of social psychology, basically, when we are looking at Karen Horney's writing, most of us we end up talking about neurosis, neurotic personalities, and basic anxiety, basic hostility. These are some of the basic terms of which a lot of questions are quoted. So let's start off with the introduction of psychoanalytical social theory, which is Karen Horney's theory of personality. So Karen Horney has um, taken and she has continued with the viewpoint that our early childhood experiences and traumas play a very important role in sculpting our personality. Okay, but she has also emphasized on social factors, on our cultural factors, which Freud ignored outright. Okay, so Karen Horney criticized Freud's psychoanalytical theory on three grounds. One, Freud was very rigid towards any new ideas. Two, he had a very biased, a very skewed view of feminine psychology. Okay. Three, he has overemphasized on biology, pleasure principle, and id. Everything cannot be unconscious process. Every other neurotic problem cannot be an unconscious process or conflict of your id impulses with your ego. So she has criticized about that. Karen Horney also placed an emphasis on the impact of culture. So she talks about um, the excessively competitive environment that we are living in today's world. In modern culture, excessive competition, when you want to be the best, when you want that you should be the best, this leads to a feeling of hostility, a feeling of isolation. You become hostile towards others because you want to be on the top, and if other person is being the best version of themselves or doing very well compared to you, it becomes a reason for um this thing, hostility. And furthermore, when you are too much into competition, you also feel isolated. Like, try to generalize it on yourself when you are the best in class. Also, you don't want to share your own notes with other people. So, what is a good friend like? A good friend usually shares everything with their friends. When you're useful to other people and other people are useful to you, they're accepting towards you, there is a feeling of togetherness, a social connectedness. When there is excessive hostility and excessive competition, the problem is, um, you know, you might start to feel isolated. This is the reason why we have a saying which says, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to go far, you should have a company. There's a saying. Okay. So try to relate like this. When you want to be um, at the top of your class, or you want to be the top person, let's just say from business point of view, when you want to be the best in your business, you cannot be sharing your trade secrets, and every other person that you meet cannot be your friend. People might want to be friends with you because they have some work with you, as a result of which these things lead to a feeling of isolation. When you feel isolated, there is an exaggerated need of affection, and people tend to overvalue love. So when you, like Hornai has talked about it, that this exaggerated need for affection, and when you start to overvalue love, you might fall prey to a lot of neurotic tendencies, um, to a lot of behavioral issues much later. These things accumulate over time and they have a cumulative effect. Another thing that she has emphasized about, just like Freud, is your childhood experiences. Now, she has said that your neurotic conflicts usually stem from your childhood trauma. So, if you trace it back or try to think about it in a deeper fashion, if you are somebody who has not experienced genuine love, for sure you will feel threatened and you will adopt certain rigid behavioral pattern in an attempt to gain love. One of the most basic human needs is to be accepted, to be loved, and to experience social connectedness. Okay, which comes under your psychological well-being. You want to experience that. If you're somebody who feels isolated, who feels threatened, who has not received genuine love, probably just for the sake of experiencing that camaraderie, you might adopt certain behavioral pattern which in the long term is harmful to you, because you never know who is trying to use you or who is trying to provide you genuine love. This is the reason why Karen Horney said, if you are very competitive, there is a fair possibility that you will experience isolation. And when you're experiencing isolation, again, you might adopt certain behavior because you are overemphasizing on the value of love. So you might adopt certain behavior which is not very healthy. Now, Karen Horney has also talked about basic hostility and basic anxiety. She said that all children have this need, this requirement to feel safe and secure. Okay, so this feeling of safety and security can be gained by genuine love, with genuine love that usually children experience from their parents. So if somebody has a parent who is neglectful, who is very dominating, who might be rejective or is excessively indulgent in their children's life might cause the child to have feelings of hostility, which is called basic hostility towards their parents. So, if uh, a child is experiencing this, they immediately try to repress such a feeling. When we repress our basic hostility, we start to develop certain amount of insecurity, and there is a consistent sense of fear and apprehension. This consistent sense of fear and apprehension is called basic anxiety. So when we have a parent who is neglecting us, dominating us, rejecting us, is excessively indulgent, this leads to hostility towards the parent. The child will experience hostility towards the parent. Now, in our social construct, when somebody does something or loves you or is a parental figure, when you start to have bitter feelings about them, it is something which is unacceptable. So, our defense mechanism of repression comes into action and it tries to repress basic hostility. When you are trying to repress a negative feeling, it ultimately creates anxiety. So, over here, Horney has called it basic anxiety. Now, to save yourself from basic anxiety, there are 4 types of protective devices that Horney has talked about. To save yourself from basic anxiety, you use 1, affection. प्यार से बात करो, talk very nicely and try to move out of the situation. Being submissive, whatever the person says, you just agree with it and don't try to mess with them. You use power, prestige, or possession. That means you use your power. Power means you could use manipulation also. Okay. You might feel prestige. You might feel that your self-esteem is being hurt and you need to make a point. Or you might try to dominate the relationship with the amount of possessions that you have. Okay. This is my understanding. Do go through Halls and Lindsay for a better understanding. And if you feel that there's something to add on to, please share your knowledge. And the 4th strategy that is being used is withdrawal. That means you are just like the way your parent is rejecting towards you. Instead of expecting a good relationship with them, you just emotionally walk away or you just detach yourself from them. So these are 4 basic strategies that we use in order to save ourselves from basic anxiety. Affection, okay, being submissive. Third one is using power, using prestige or possession to save yourself from basic anxiety. Another one is, 4th one is withdrawal, like being emotionally absent from the whole relationship. So usually normal people use all of these 4 strategies in a flexible manner. So whatever approach is required in that particular situation, you use that and then you walk away after having dealt with the situation or that domineering relationship or whatever the conflict is. However, in case of a neurotic person, they will end up using one of the strategies excessively. Okay, like previously we've talked about, a child needs to feel sense of security and safety. They need to experience genuine love from their parents. Otherwise, they might just adopt to certain maladaptive behavior or a neurotic behavior, which is not healthy for them in the long run. And they are doing so because they feel threatened. Okay. So when they use some strategy, it might be a rigid pattern. Healthy people use a flexible pattern. Now, Karen Horney has also talked about compulsive drives. So what is a compulsive drive? When you are trapped uh, in frequent neurotic behavior, which is mostly compulsive in nature to reduce your basic anxiety, leads to a self-defeating behavior. Think of it in terms of OCD. Okay, you know excessive hand washing is bad for you and it will maintain the illness. However, when you have this anxiety, you anyways go about and wash your hand and maintain the maladaptive behavioral pattern. It is as washing hands again and again, even after having this information that it is bad for you or it will maintain your OCD, still you continue to do this. This is called self-defeating behavior. Okay, these behaviors, usually these compulsive behaviors, compulsive drives, they produce more basic anxiety instead of reducing them. They might give you temporary relief, but they maintain your basic anxiety and your cycle continues. So, under compulsive drives, Karen Horney has also talked about neurotic needs. And there are 10 categories of neurotic needs. Okay. Uh, you know, basically, these neurotic needs are an attempt to reduce your basic anxieties. And these neurotic needs are: one, affection and approval; two, your need for a powerful partner; three, to have narrow boundaries. Okay, restrict yourself in a very rigid boundary. That's your third neurotic need, because you're looking for control and reduction of your basic anxiety. Fourth one is need for power. You want power, right? Fifth is the need to exploit other people. Sixth is your need for social recognition, your need for prestige. Okay. Seventh one is your need for personal admiration. Eighth one is your need for ambition and personal achievement. The fifth one is for need for self-sufficiency and independence. Tenth one, the tenth is the need for perfection and unsaleability. Unsaleability means whatever you do, you are not satisfied. उसमें आप हमेशा अपनी गलती निकालेंगे and you have this need for perfection. Now, Karen Horney has also talked about neurotic trends. Okay, so these 10 neurotic needs have been categorized under 3 basic neurotic trends. Moving towards people. So in order to, like usually what happens to compliant people? They protect themselves against all these feelings of helplessness by being friends with or aligning with or attaching themselves with other people. Moving towards people means being friends with other people so that you don't feel helpless and alone. Moving against people is a more aggressive or hostile behavior. So in this, aggressive people protect themselves against this perceived hostility. They might perceive that you are a bad person, and individuals who come under the category of this moving against people, they are usually aggressive. They might perceive another individuals as hostile. Perceive matlab, perceiving hostile means it is not necessary that this thing is true. You might have an assumption. To save yourself from other people's hostility, you start to exploit them. This is moving against people. Moving against people means exploiting other people to save yourself from hostility. Now, this hostility is mostly perceived hostility. Chances are that this might not be true. Third thing is moving away from people. Moving away from people is basically detachment from other people. You protect yourself, from other individuals by appearing arrogant and aloof. Okay, so basically you detach from other people against your feelings of isolation by appearing more um, of a loner or somebody who appears arrogant and aloof. Okay, now Karen Horney has also talked about intra-psychic conflicts. Now, what are intra-psychic conflicts? These are basically इंट्रासाइकिक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स का बेसिक मतलब होता है इनर टेंशन. Intrapsychic conflicts equals inner tension. So, basically, this inner tension becomes part of our own belief system, and they start to play a role or sort of manipulate our life in its own way. And this is mostly better understood under the idealized self-image. See, individuals who have not received genuine love, they have not experienced genuine love. Okay, in their childhood, they tend to block their attempts. This, the fact that they have not received genuine love, this blocks the attempt towards having a stable identity, stable sense of self. Why? For example, you are an individual. If I only praise you or show you affection as a parent, only if you're doing well, then you will become a human doing rather than human being. There is a value to existence of a human. Even if you are not doing anything, or something which is presumed as a achievement. So let's just say there is an individual in the family who's not a doctor, who's not a scientist, who's not an engineer, who's not a software engineer, who probably almost does nothing in their life. Is it necessary that we are supposed to hate them and we are not supposed to show them love and respect? This is completely false. So when a person starts to feel that they don't have a value because they have not experienced genuine love does not come out of conditions. Genuine love is just there with you for you. It does not mean you have to do something to earn that love. That love and respect is there for you. Children who do not receive genuine love when they are children, like individuals who do not receive genuine love when they are children, they grow up with a very unstable sense of self, unstable sense of identity. Because when somebody does something and then receives love, it's conditional love. If you are a very good earning person and only then I go out and call you my friend, this is conditional. And when you're doing something very similar since childhood, as a parent, you're doing something like this from childhood to their formative years, this can be very dangerous. Why? Such individuals will feel alienated. Okay, they create a certain um, idealized image which is pretty unreal. It is extravagantly very positive picture of themselves. So there is a fair possibility that there are three aspects of this idealized self-image. One is where you are consistently looking for glory or self-actualization. Okay, so your whole life goes towards achieving your ideal self. You're not happy with anything, with whatever you do. Second one is neurotic claim. क्योंकि बचपन में मुझे प्यार नहीं मिला, I never got self privilege, any kind of privilege when I was a child. I never experienced genuine love. So now I will take whatever I want. So I'll compensate for that. Third one is neurotic pride or the false pride. Since we have learned since childhood that until and unless you achieve something, you are not qualified to experience love. If somebody has been brought up in such a way कि ये चीज एकदम दिमाग में बैठ गई है, there is a fair possibility that you might experience neurotic pride or false pride, which is based on distorted or idealized view of yourself. Okay. Now, intrapsychic conflict is not just about idealized self-image, it is also about self-hatred. So inner tension, when we talk about in terms of self-hatred, what does it look like? Neurotic individuals. Neurotics usually dislike themselves because your reality will always fall short of your idealized view of self. If you have a false pride, capacity है नहीं, मैंने अपने बारे में बहुत कुछ सोच रखा है, you will always be dissatisfied with your achievement. Okay. So in such a case, when you have this self-hatred towards yourself, you will have unrealistic demands from yourself. One, as a result of which you might just accuse yourself, you will insult yourself, or you'll do this thing which is called self-contempt. You will experience frustration out of yourself, as a result of which we end up tormenting ourselves, torturing ourselves. And the sixth one, and the last one, while discussing self-hatred, is self-destructive actions and impulses. Neurotic individuals, when their reality falls short of their idealized self, they might indulge in self-destructive actions. Okay. Now, Karen Horney has also talked about this thing, which is called feminine psychology. What is feminine psychology? So, when Freud talks about male and female, he's generally describing having a penis and absence of a penis. Then he is talking about penis envy in women. So Karen Horney believes that this is a very skewed and a very degraded view of looking at females. There is more to a female and her role rather than, just absence of a penis. She has emphasized on the fact that your culture, your society has certain amount of expectations, and there are certain expectations that are out of a female and that which is different from a male. So this is how feminine psychology or psychology of females is different compared to men. Okay. Her view of Oedipal complex was very different from Freud. It was significantly different from Freud. So she has insisted that any sexual attraction or hostility that you feel towards your parents, it is not just a result of your biology. It is a result of learning also. Okay. Now, another thing is, where does psychoanalytic social theory given by Karen Horney fits in psychotherapies. See, in classical psychoanalysis, they say, just bring in awareness of their inner unconscious conflict and everything will be resolved by having much more control on your impulses or your unconscious mind or whatever. But Karen Horney's goal of psychotherapy was towards self realization. So you recognize yourself, you accept yourself as a human being with both your pluses and minuses. You need to give up that idealized self image ke, I have to achieve something really great. It's good to have goals, but going crazy is not a very good idea. What my understanding is, from going point A to point B, there is this journey. Considering point A is the starting point and point B is the place where you achieve self actualization. You don't have to be miserable. Like certain people have this thought process, until and unless I achieve this or I've attained this, I wouldn't be happy. Life is about being happy and accepting. You can only be happy if you're accepting towards whatever you have got. And in the middle of that, you formulate your own process. You have your own way of reaching the goal that you have. Instead of criticizing yourself every moment about what you don't have, because this will result into resentment, frustration, torturing yourself. Okay, and once you torture yourself, what happens to depressive patients when they have poor view about themselves and their achievements? They're unable to recall that what are the best achievements that they have had in their life, as a result of which what happens next. When this becomes excessive, they might jump into impulsive behavior, which is self-destructive in nature. Okay, like suicidal behavior, self-harming behavior. So it is okay to accept yourself, change your self-hatred into self-acceptance. You might not have reached your goal, but every day you're changing in some way or the other in your attempt to reach towards your goal. Okay, so in Karen Horney's psychoanalytical psychotherapy, she has built her psychotherapy upon self analysis and self understanding. So, this was my viewpoint regarding Karen Horney. I hope you found this useful. If you have anything to add on, or you feel there's something that probably I have not discussed or I was wrong, please feel free to add to this. I hope you found this useful.